Hello, everybody. I'm Michael Monaco.
And I'm Bobby Salvesen. We are the Hazmat Guys, bringing you knowledge and insight to make your job a little bit easier and safer.
Let's take a minute to hear about today's sponsors.
Hey guys, time to level up. New and exciting detection technologies are available, and All Safe Industries can help you navigate the details to make the best choice for your hazmat team. All Safe Industries, where your job is a safer you. Call or click today. Hey guys, Bobby from the Hazmat Guys here, and have you noticed that threats have evolved but decon hasn't? Well, that's until now. Hybrid decon is the latest evolution of decon tools and techniques. The concept of hybrid decon has been getting a lot of attention in the hazmat community, but what exactly is hybrid decon? Well, First Line Technology, which are the developers of Dahlgren Decon and FiberTech wipes, have produced a downloadable 24-page brochure that explains the concept of hybrid decon and why it is a major improvement over either wet decon or dry decon alone. This brochure answers all the questions you might have about how to simplify your hazmat response. You'll learn why using Dahlgren Decon and FiberTech wipes together will reduce the time it takes to set up, mix, apply, and clean up after or during an incident. You can download this free copy of What is Hybrid Decon brochure at www.firstlinetech.com or simply click on the ad below on our website.
Let's get to the show.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Hazmat Guys. I'm Bobby Salvesen and I'm here with Mike. Hi, Mike.
Hey guys.
That was a little sassy.
It was.
Take it down a
I'm feeling sassy. I'm feeling sassy
All right.
because we are totally having one of my favorite people ever on in a few seconds. But before that, where are we going to be?
Actually, Cold Zone. Cold Zone is soldiering on like nothing happened, and I am very proud of them for doing such. I'm not a naysayer. I'm not saying open up the country, but their area is pretty open. So Cold Zone is coming up relatively quickly. It's going to be, June 24th, I believe?
Yep, 24th, 25th, 26th.
Yeah, so come and catch Mike and all of the peeps over there. Yeah. And then I just got our first 2021, which is going to be Michigan. We are already scheduled for 2021 Michigan, so that's that. And to go around and peruse the university because there's new stuff going up every day.
Yeah, so if you've had a hankering to get in touch with the community, Cold Zone is pretty much going to be where it's at.
That's it.
I think they should just name it, like, eliminate Cold Zone and just call it the Hazmat Conference 2020.
Yeah, and there was, I think the IAFC is doing what they're trying to do, a virtual one. So we'll see how that one all goes.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes.
So,
but while they're trying to do, their internet virtual, I guess is the proper terminology. We're trying to move on with very kind of similar ideas, and we're total opposite coast. Had those that BHO lab, that honey oil lab that went off. So we decided to reach out to our good friend over in that neck of the woods, Todd Burton, and kind of see if we could walk through just some basic lab safety type stuff. So, hey, Todd.
Hey, guys. What's going on?
Not too much, man.
yeah.
Thanks for having me on. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks for coming on. What are you doing all the way out there in California?
Oh, just enjoying the, working from home.
Oh yeah, everybody's doing it. Is it total like me and Mike? It's almost to the point where we took people around the country and they're not wearing masks anymore. I'm like, if you go into a store around here and you don't have one on, they give you the stink eye. Like, it's big.
Yeah, it's pretty standard practice. It seems like anymore. Everybody's got a mask on.
Yeah, I actually saw a 5-year-old get drawn and quartered in the parking lot.
It's hard and feathered.
Yeah, it was horrific. Terrible. I felt like it was 1723.
And you were doing it.
Listen. I've got the big truck. I can pull the most pieces apart. Oh, that's awful. We're awful human beings.
Yes, indeed. But getting back to topic, You know, one of the things that Todd is kind of like our go-to guy is clan labs and chemical suicides and the like. And it's not like Todd only does that. We jokingly remember, Todd. You remember way back in the day when we started to do the first round table videos, and you just popped on and were like, "This guy's the Google of hazmat."
Yes.
No, I think Kosh said that or something. I just because I'm on Google as you guys talk.
Oh, maybe that's why.
Yeah.
I was
don't-
totally overwhelmed.
I don't even believe that. I don't even think he had any other reference material in front of him. He was just pulling out stuff he remembered from like his last week's runs.
He was probably reading a book at the same time.
So,
You know.
for those of us who are not as privileged to know you, can you give us like just kind of a quick background?
Okay. So I worked down on a SoCal hazmat team. I started on the hazmat team in 1999. It's been a few years now. So all I really do is do hazmat emergencies. So we respond to chemical, biological, radiological emergencies. We do all three of them in our neck of the woods. And then I also do some training for the Industrial Emergency Council. They're kind of a private outfit that provides affordable training to municipalities like fire and police and that kind of thing. So I've been training with them for quite some time. And I like to fish and do metal art.
Yeah, which by the way, he's insanely good at both. So we won't even go there.
Well, I did win the last
what is
fishing
it?
contest.
It's TB metal art.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you have any? I mean, this video, if you haven't seen it, it like spread across the country like wildfire in our community, and it was basically a couple of firefighters running down a stick and being roasted like marshmallows.
Yeah, that was super scary, wasn't it?
Yeah. So what the hell was that about?
Yeah, out here on the West Coast, as it is in a lot of other states where the TH stuff is legal, there's a lot of businesses that are doing this. I'm not saying this place didn't have permits, but most of the ones that do go through the permitting process are known. They know where they're at, and they know what's in the facility as far as chemicals go. Because out here in California, if you do become a permitted facility, you have to have all of your stuff into what's called CERS, our California Environmental Reporting System. So I'm guessing this place was kind of, under the radar as to how much stuff they had in here. And you watch that fireball burn, it's nice and clean. It's burned just like propane.
It's funny because we were talking about it in the firehouse, and they were like, "Oh, like, do you think that could have been, like a gasoline explosion or anything like that?" And I'm like, "No." I'm like, you see like how white the smoke is? Like there is something non-hydrocarbon burning going on right there."
Yeah, well, if you take a close look at that fireball, that is definitely like propane or butane, though. So, I mean, that thing's burning clean, and it looks just like the butane when we fire it off and when we do our flaring. So, some of that white smoke, I'm not sure what else was burning, but that's definitely some kind of a butane storage or propane storage.
So, what do you think actually? I mean, if you know, that's great, but if you don't, hypothesize is fine. Because a lot of times these BHO labs or these honey oil labs, they use the butane in smaller quantities, and they're kind of like smaller bottles. What would have caused such a tremendous release like that?
Yeah, so there's a lot of these THC extraction facilities out in California where it's legal now, and there's not a huge amount of them that have actual legal permits to do the butane propane extraction because it is rigorous. It's like trying to start a pharmacy or something. You have to go through a gazillion hoops. So there's a lot of them that are flying under the radar with no permits, and a lot of people don't know what they have inside the building. Out in California, the ones that do have permits have to have disclosure as far as what kind of hazmats they have. If they have a lot of propane or if they have a lot of butane, that would have been disclosed, and hopefully the fire department would have known that. But as far as the big tanks go, a lot of these big facilities that are doing, major extractions, they're using 5 foot tall propane butane tanks. So and a lot of these are tied to inline closed loop systems. You could have like 3 or 4 of these that are all tied into one system, and they're doing an extraction at one time, and they could have up to we were at one facility a while back, maybe a year ago, where they had 20 or so of these huge, butane propane containers, just as reserves.
Wow.
And it's,
What is it, Mike? Maybe 2 or 3 years ago, we had we have in our municipality, we have an abundance of these roadside meat people.
Yes, we lovingly refer to them as roach coaches.
Roach coaches, right? And they and they have a plethora of propane tanks, regular 20-pound propane tanks. And what happened was one guy's garage was found out about, and the other guy, he thought the other guy down the block that was his competitor, called it in. So he started calling people in. So it came into, within 3 or 4 months, we had like 300 tanks of 20-pound cylinders. And so we would go down there to burn them off, as a drill to test out things. But I remember very vividly that we had a couple of them that blew off definitely different than propane. It was like white. It was like roaring. You could see the thermal imaging camera, but it was definitely different than propane.
Interesting. So, I mean, a lot of these facilities are using huge closed-loop systems and lots of butane and lots of propane, depending on what they're doing. Most of them are using the butane propane to get a really clean extraction. If you look at some of the classes that we've done online for you guys, if you're using the different methods like water extraction or some of the other alcohol extractions, there's a lot of plant matter that's left behind and fats that are left behind. And the butane propane extractions are super clean, and it makes it a high purity.
So I'm going to assume, and in your experience, correct me if I'm wrong, but you get a large company like this that really they're rigorous. They go through the process. They're filling out their we call them tier 2 reports. They're certified. They're this. They're that, and they have tremendous volume of product. And then you have the guy down the block in his garage that's trying to extract it. Which one do you feel like is the more dangerous scenario? Because the guy in the garage is only going to have a little tiny bit.
Yeah. I guess it depends on the scenario as to if it's a fire or release. So, I mean, there's a lot of regulations that go into place as to how the process is done. And that's why there's not very many that I know of that are actually permitted to do it as of yet because of the strenuous regulations. So, which has forced a lot of these big operations underground. And I think that's what happened in LA. There was these guys doing a lot of this extraction. I have a little bit of insider information on it. I got a hold of one of the guys I know up in that area, and he said that as they were making entry into the building, that the heat really started to pick up. And they basically called for, an evacuation, started doing horn blasts, getting people out of the room or out of that building. And that's pretty much when it started to take off as they were getting out.
Wow.
Yeah. So I don't know if it was a leak from one of the cylinders or if they were actually doing active extraction. So in my experience, it's usually active extraction is when you're going to have, a fire.
Because a lot of the clandestine stuff, you're pushing the product through the marijuana, it extracts, it comes out into a pan, and it just openly evaporates.
Yeah, that's the open blasting. So that's more on the small scale stuff where you got your small tweakers doing that. They're usually not doing large scale open blasting. Those are usually small house fires. But for the guys doing high volume stuff, they're working in closed loop systems where they have these large stainless steel apparatus with extractors and pumps and butane propane reservoirs, and this stuff is cycling through.
And high pressure, right?
Yeah, so they use butane and propane most of the time because propane has a higher pressure. I think it's around 100 psi, and butane's around 47 psi or something like that. So they use like a 55-45 kind of mix to help that pressure move around. But yeah, that's a lot of pressure.
So in your experience, you've done plenty of these. What are some like major safety points that you have experienced and come across and are preaching as, hey, listen, man, be careful of this because this happened to me?
Yeah, I've been doing hazmat a long time, and everybody you talk about chemical and physical properties, and everybody says, oh yeah, it's heavier than air or it's lighter than air, and we're monitoring at the ceiling or we're monitoring down low. And most of the time when you teach classes and you ask guys to monitor down low, where does the meter usually end up at?
around the mid ankle, or like
Yeah.
a couple inches above your ankle.
Yeah.
If you're lucky. Most guys are putting it down by their calf or their knee, it seems like, and they consider that kind of low. This stuff flattens out so it's amazing how the butane just flattens out. It pancakes and it spreads and it's looking for an ignition source. So that's one of the things that I've really learned is to keep that nozzle on the ground.
We had it wasn't a BHO lab, but it was a propane run. And man, the only reason I'm saying around the ankle is because that's where my monitor was. And when we lit it off and it found an ignition source, we literally watched a wave front of propane burn less than an inch off the ground and propagate through the whole scene right through my feet and just went and kept on going. And I was sitting there going, there's no LEL. There's no LEL. You literally have to drag your probe on the floor.
Yeah, you got a hot foot there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when
Yeah,
I pretend like I'm blind and I just tap the wand left and right. Hey guys, Bobby from the Hazmat Guys here, and emergency responders across the country rely on CAVCOM for mission-critical two-way radio communication. CAVCOM's Talk Through Your Ears technology is compatible with any suit, any respirator, and any two-way radio. As an in-suit communication experts, CAVCOM has developed a completely independent communication system that can be truly advancing to your team's ability to stay fully connected regardless of the task at hand. Whether you're working from a command position or responding downrange, their two-way communication solutions deliver the clarity, durability, and reliability that extreme situations demand. CAVCOM will be at the 2020 IAFC in booth 321, where you can experience a live demonstration, and you can see and hear the difference with Talk Through Your Ears. If you can't make it to IAFC, call today for an on-site demonstration of this revolutionary system at 866-547-4988, or visit the website for additional information at cavcominc.com. That's CAVCOMINC.com. All right, let's pick up where we left off.
Yeah, there's no LEL because you're not in the zone. That's one of the things in the experiment that we did with the BHO, the butane honey oil explosions. When we did this experiment we have on YouTube, and we put it on the university there. We had intakes. We basically expelled 4 cans in a very small space, a 10 by 10 by 12 foot ceiling, and we had meters at 12 inches, at 24 inches, and 36 inches. We expelled all 4 cans and waited about a minute, and it was at 3% LEL at a 12-inch height. And then we hit a taser on the ground, boom, full ignition, and one hell of an explosion.
Wow.
That's my biggest takeaway.
That's crazy. And so you would think that these, I've never gone into a fire or even a report of a fire with a meter out. Like I'm looking for something. I'm looking for the fire. It's kind of obvious what I'm looking for. And I hate the, armchair quarterback and everything like that. But this was a very, we got phone calls from everyone. Like, what happened with this? And why did this happen? And I know there's still details coming out about it, but this, I'm like, that's a BHO place, man.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's a lot of propane cylinders going off in there. And I think they were probably doing, like I said, the active extraction, and it just leaked. You can watch these videos online where people are doing active extractions, and, it just finds an ignition source, and it just backflashes to where they were doing either the blasting or a leak in the closed loop system. And, if they're doing the open blasting, that's usually worst case scenario. The very first one I responded to about, I want to say it's been about 5 or 6 years now. The entire extended stay hotel room was destroyed. It blew out glass like a football field long, started glass into nearby buildings and whatnot. And the other units on where it exploded blew the walls down.
Wow.
Oh my God.
It was nuts. It's like, okay, the dispatch was, hey, a meth lab exploded. And I'm like, I've been doing this a long time, and I have never seen a meth lab explode.
Yeah.
Wow.
Maybe we just have the wrong meth down here in San Diego.
And you're talking about a hotel room, so the chances that they dragged a 5-foot cylinder into a hotel room are probably slim to none. So a very little bit can go a very long way.
Yeah, he had about 30 of the small 300 milliliter butane cans. And those butane cans are a mix of gases. They're butane, propane, and isobutane. So, and they all have different boiling points. And that's another thing if you take a look at some of these classes online that we did, there's some process called winterization. And they actually take some of this material and mix it with ethanol and put it into the freezer to try to get the fats out before they purify it. And if you do your blasting, if you send your butane, propane, isobutane mixture through the marijuana and it's bubbling off, and you can see all those bubbles coming out of the syrupy THC consistency oil, if you take that too quickly and mix it with ethanol and you throw it into the freezer, if you got some kind of electrical arc is all you need, and enough of that gas inside the freezer, and we've had freezers explode.
Wow. So how if I'm walking into a place, and I know this is probably covered extensively in the course, but just as a kind of what you're offering in there, if I walk into a place, how can I know the difference between an open blast and a closed circuit?
So yeah, those are pretty straightforward. An open blasting is just a segment of tube or glass that might be 18 inches long, where they pack all the dope into what's called an extractor. And then you would depress the can on one side, it comes through the marijuana, and it blows out the other side as a gas and a liquid, usually into a Pyrex dish. Now, the closed loop systems are going to be pretty obvious because it's a big stainless steel apparatus where the extractor could be up to like 3 feet long, and that's got hoses going to pumps, and you'll hear the pumps going, and which go to reservoirs and that kind of thing. So, with these responses, typically, the law enforcement's going to be in there first most of the time. And we've worked with our local law enforcement down here, the local DEA guys, and they'll actually wear 4-gas meters on their ankles. They Velcro them to their ankle, but that'll only go off at 10%. So at least it gives them something they can hear it beep, and they just know when it beeps to get out.
Just a little heads up.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Right around your ankle. That's actually a smart move.
That really is.
Yeah, they have a little RKI meter just Velcroed on. It's a passive diffusion device, no pump on it. And it works pretty good. I've taken it and actually put it down into a tote of butane, and it alarms pretty fast. So that's what they're doing. But then, when they call the hazmat team to be able, they've got the bad guys out. Now there's either open blasting or closed loop going. I mean, utilities are a big deal. Definitely got to kill off the utilities in this instance to be able to make it safe to go in there and recon, coming in with that 4-gas nice and low and turnouts, making sure that gas is dissipated. And it will dissipate pretty quickly once it's ventilated.
Well, I mean, there's a big difference between the guy doing the open blast. He's not I'll say the professional, right? He's usually a mess. Would you agree? I mean, when I think of the closed loop, if this guy has enough money to buy one of these rigs, he's generally a little bit more serious, and he's doing it for the money, where the other guy is just doing it to get high.
A little bit of both. Those closed loops have really come down in price. I think you can probably buy a closed loop system for like $1,300 now.
What?
Oh, really? Where would you find some?
You have
Bobby, if you go to my site,
this one's called the Burton extractor.
Wow.
We've seen closed loops in garages, just like two average dudes just doing an extraction in the garage because they want to do it safer. The closed loops are a little bit safer because they're not blasting the butane into the environment. But the problem with the closed loops are when hazmat shows up and this thing is still running, you got the pumps running, it's under pressure. Now you got to figure out what to do with this closed loop system, by shutting down the utilities. Hopefully that kills the pump off. Sometimes they're scabbed into the electrical, depending on, if it's associated with a grow or not, because every grow has some type of an extractor, usually.
Yeah.
Right. And then once those, the system's fully charged, you can't really take it apart inside because you're starting to vent the butane in an enclosed space. So that whole closed loop system needs to be brought outside into a well-ventilated area. Make sure you got a good standoff distance, and you got to start to disassemble this closed loop system so law enforcement can get their evidence out of the extractors and you make it safe.
See, that's what I got mostly out of your course, amongst other things. But I was like, I would have no idea how to do this if I was presented this.
Yeah, it's some of these systems can be huge. Also, one of the systems that we responded to, which would be probably similar to the one they had in LA, where there was a fire, where it had probably 20 of those huge butane propane tanks. The closed loop system itself, I think, had about 10 extractors that were in line.
Whoa.
And
Wow.
we actually had to call the manufacturer in Colorado, of all places. Of course, it's legal there. They walked us through to be able to actually reverse the system and try to get most of the propane back into the cylinders. And that took over an hour on the phone to be able to turn the dials and this and that. And then, of course, the DEA wants to take away a lot of this stuff as evidence. And you'd be surprised, a lot of this stuff is tied to air compressors and chillers in different rooms where lines had to be cut. These things weigh a significant amount, and a lot of it had to be taken apart. So you could come up on a small extractor system, which could easily be taken out by two people, or sometimes these things have huge chain supports that are held up because they're so heavy. We had one system that we had to flip a table over and put it on some wheels to be able to take the entire thing outside, and had 4 guys taking this thing apart.
Is there on the I know the propane cylinder, right? And I understand the valving of the propane cylinder. If you had a propane cylinder attached to that, is there any way to, I don't know, use like a bonnet type system, open up the spitter valve and then burn off through like the bonnet? Or is that just, there's got to be a way to get in there and safely, I don't want to say like a hot tap.
Yeah, they typically don't have the cylinder itself hooked up to the system. The cylinder is used to refill the reservoir that's attached to the system. And those reservoirs are these huge stainless steel reservoirs, which don't have spitter valves. They're usually just ball valves on and off. And a lot of the times the safeties are overridden so they can put in another valve. Which makes it, a huge problem for whoever has jurisdiction in dealing with these cylinders. Are non-DOT cylinders, and they're full of butane and propane. Now what are you going to do with it?
Huh.
Yeah. Wow, that's tough.
So how many years have you been responding to labs just like this?
Oh, just like this? I think the one that we had in 2014 is kind of when it started for us.
Now that would be the big labs. What about like just responding to like the little stuff, like the guys who's tweaking in his garage?
For the BHO stuff, yeah, since 2014 is the first time we've seen that type of lab down in our area or our neck of the woods. It's been going on for a long time, but we really hadn't run into it before. I think it was 2014, about 6 years ago.
All right. So, and you've taken almost 6 years worth of this experience and kind of compressed it into a course.
Pretty much, we kind of made it into a couple of 2 big modules. One was kind of illegal grow houses and what the hazards are with the grow houses, and then transition that into some of the extraction methods, which are kind of flying under the radar, like how hash is made, how they do water extraction with bubble bags, or dry ice extraction, and CO2 extraction. And then there's another one called rosin extraction, which is just heat. You could use your sister's flat iron and put some buds between some wax paper and squeeze it.
That's scary, because like that's something so easy the kids can do it easily.
Oh yeah, and usually all the teenage kids are kind of doing that thing.
Yeah, that one is crazy, because I remember how simple it is, and it's like the kids could be doing it right in your house and you wouldn't even know.
No, you have no idea. We were on a lab where they're using hydraulic presses now, and one of the I think it was one of the police officers was there, and he said his son is a firefighter in Colorado, and he says he's making these hydraulic presses that have heated plates, and he cannot keep up with the demand.
Leave it to the firemen.
Exactly.
That's great.
Well, Todd, thank you for coming on today, giving us a little of this experience, and thank you for the courses that you're offering to everybody. This is, I got to tell you, it's really some eye-opening stuff because you don't realize the hazards that are out there for even the most simplest forms of extracting THC, which is not only things that are going to be found on a commercial setting, but most of the stuff can be found just in a residential or in like a clandestine style lab. So to have that information and to understand those safety aspects before you walk into something like that, it's a home run.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's coming to a neighborhood near you guys sometime soon.
Yeah. So, guys, by June 1st, Todd's first package will be officially up. All 3 modules individually, but if you pick them up as a package, you're going to get the indoor grow labs, the mechanical separation, and the liquid solvent extraction, which deals with the hexanes, the IPAs, and stuff like that. So keep an eye on the university. That one's going to pop up by the 1st of June.
Well, thanks for having me on, guys. Really appreciate it. Just trying to share some knowledge with everybody and keep them safe.
Thank you,
Yeah,
my
man.
friend.
Thanks, Bo.
Well, that wraps up another episode of the Hazmat Guys.
You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and our YouTube channel at The Hazmat Guys, and take a moment to call our comment hotline at 843-628-1484.
And we are always looking forward to your feedback about information or interesting incidents that you were a part of, so send us a note at feedback@thehazmatguys.com.
Remember, guys, don't just get on the job, get into the job.